This is the Decoding Obesity podcast, where we simplify, demystify, and decode obesity, helping you lose weight and feel great. So gear up for a fascinating journey through this ever-evolving field, and let's see what we find. And please remember that the thoughts and opinions on this podcast do not constitute medical advice. Don't forget to visit our website, www.decodingobesity.com, for show notes and more info. And now, here's your host of the Decoding Obesity podcast, Dr. Avishkar Sabharwal.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Decoding Obesity podcast. If this is your first time tuning in, I encourage you to subscribe to the show wherever you're listening, so that you can get notified as soon as the new episodes are released. Dr. Tran, who herself is an obesity specialist, is here with me to share her story about her struggle with obesity. Dr. Hang is both certified in obesity medicine and family medicine. She also minored in Nutritional Sciences and Toxicology in college, and she's here to talk to us, of course, about her freshman 15 experience. She's a marathon enthusiast and a firm believer in nutrition and fitness to attain wellness and to prevent chronic medical conditions. She's currently based in Orange County, California. Welcome, Hang.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. So, we had discussed a little bit about your freshman 15. Do you want to tell us how your weight became an issue for you?
Sure. So just a little background, when I was in high school, I was always sort of like a thin person at 5'1". I was 105 pounds. And so I was very active. I played tennis. In college, when I started college, it was just the stress of starting a new college, being pre-med, and having excess food in the dining halls. And it was, all you can eat buffet style and the lack of physical activities. And so because of that, during my first semester, I actually gained 15 pounds, hence the freshman 15. Everyone around me gained, about similar or more. So I didn't feel it as a problem until I went home to see my family during the holiday around Thanksgiving. And I remember at that time, it wasn't just family members, but also my neighbors, they questioned and they asked about my weight, and they were very frank about it. It's like, hey, you gained weight. What happened? Oh, are you pregnant? And at one point, I was even called a pig because of this weight gain.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So, I think overall, I would say weight, or, you can call fat shaming, it's rather prevalent in Asian American culture. And I knew at the time I didn't tolerate it, but it's a cultural thing. And so everyone would be talking about it. My friends certainly experienced this too. And at that time, it did bother me, but I didn't let it affect me too much because I knew I would lose the weight. I just didn't expect for it to take so long. And in my case, it actually took me 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Did you try anything before you finally got success?
I tried a lot of different options that were available at the time. And this was, talking in 2003 when nutrition wasn't very popular, but I was lucky enough to take nutrition classes. And so I studied about it. I remember at the time I kept a food diary. So I would log down all the food that I would eat. So throughout the day, if this list keeps growing, I would tell myself, okay, you got to stop eating. But I wasn't like, very exact with the number of calories, because there are certain food that have calories, but other food I couldn't figure out the calories in there. And I knew that, I shouldn't eat more than 2,000 calories a day. I stop eating past 7 p.m. So I would brush my teeth, knowing that I didn't want to brush my teeth again.
Yeah, I remember actually my mom telling me, when I was a kid, that you should just brush your teeth because that changes the taste in your mouth and you wouldn't want to eat anymore after that.
Oh, okay. For me, it was I was lazy. I didn't want to brush it again.
I see.
And I stopped drinking soda actually, because I used to use soda, to help me study, and I cut that completely. At the time, the Atkins diet was very popular, so it's more a low carb diet. I tried for a few weeks. I would say overall, all of these attempts I did, I wasn't very consistent with my food diary, and I wasn't, and I was also, stress eat, like thinking like I need to eat, in order to fuel my brain so I can study. And what ended up happening was I ended up eating a lot of unhealthy snacks. So all these attempts didn't really help me, and so that's why it took me longer. to lose weight.
Do you think you were seeing it more as a diet rather than a lifestyle change at that point in time?
At that time, yes, I definitely saw it more as a diet. But as I progress into my study for nutrition and I start hanging out with friends who were cooking and they just made some awesome gourmet food that it became more of a lifestyle. I had friends who were vegans and vegetarians. So it was very common for me to, it was easier for me to eat healthier food. So it became more of a lifestyle because of my peers.
And then because of your education in nutrition.
Yeah.
And how much did you end up losing finally, and how long have you kept it off for?
I would say I did lose all my freshman 15,
Oh,
and
wow.
I've kept it off for 11 years now, and I'm happy to say, I can't donate blood. Obviously, you have to be at least 110. So for right now, I cannot donate blood.
Oh. But how did you do it?
For me, it was making smarter choices about my food. So what I learned from nutrition early on, I knew that if you eat a lot more carbohydrates, the hydroxyl groups attract the water, and so although people lose weight when they're on a low carb diet, initial weight is water weight. So I did try that a little bit with not eating as much carbs, but I also switched to the healthier carbohydrate options such as quinoa, whole wheat, wild rice, barley, pretty much from the white rice to the healthier carbohydrates with lower glycemic index.
So sort of the slower carbs rather than the fast carbs.
Yes, exactly. And I exercise more. I start cooking more food, and I would buy groceries and cook. Yeah.
Yeah, for our listeners, the slower carbs are actually more complex carbohydrates. So they would be unprocessed grains that would be digested more slowly compared to the processed grains or the processed flours that you would use.
Yes.
And how long have you maintained your weight loss for?
I maintained it for 11 years now. Yeah.
And now this is your new lifestyle, and you're happy with it, and you're maintaining that?
Yes, and I would say it's a lifestyle because I don't have to think about it. The changes I made over the years of, switching of not eating white bread and white rice to the healthier complex carbs. For me, it's more automatic, I would say. Although I'm getting comments from my family that I'm not Asian anymore because I don't eat white rice.
Do you crave the white rice?
No, I don't. I do not crave it at all. It's funny, my fiance loves white rice, and so he has his bag of white rice. I have my bag of brown rice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you don't crave those. I'm sure you have some cravings.
Oh, I do. I mean, I'm not, for the most part, I have cravings for healthier food, but I also have unhealthy cravings too, and I give in to them. I still have cravings for French fries.
Oh,
I like the
wow.
Five Guys French fries and Cheetos, the Flaming Hot.
I remember you were telling me that you had convinced your office staff to start eating Cheetos.
I did. I convinced another colleague he was a collegiate tennis player and he grew up in the Pacific Northwest, so didn't really have Cheetos. I think it's more of if you grow up in like the Southwest part of the U.S., Texas, California, Nevada. But yeah, I convinced him and I got him into eating Cheetos.
Oh, wow. What would you say were the key factors in your success?
For me, so a few things I would say the knowledge that I gained from nutrition. I also took exercise physiology. So I learned about, the micro macronutrients, the complex and simple carbohydrates, and then the role of aerobic exercise. And especially because aerobic exercise does reduce fat mass and body mass. And I had fitness coaches in running and tennis, and those people really inspire me to stay physically active for life. And I would say this, for someone that comes from a family that no one plays sports, no exercise on a regular basis, I do run 1 to 2 marathon a year, and it's something new that I didn't necessarily learn from my family, but I learned from fitness coaches.
How important do you think were these coaches in your way to success or in your path to success?
Definitely, they're very, very important, especially if for me, like I said, growing up with my family not playing sports or emphasizing exercise, having people that really inspire me and know where I start and help me get to a different level. Being there part of the journey really helped. Remember one of my running coaches, he passed away, but when I first joined running in high school, and I was very frustrated because I was behind with all the cross country people. But he was like, just focus on your personal record, your PR. Don't focus on anyone else. And so that really helped me because when I first started off, I was very slow. But towards the end of the season, I was able to run faster, and I would break my record, my PR every time.
Oh, wow. Yeah, because I myself have struggled with the thoughts of having a coach, because it's not cheap
No, it's
to
not.
have a coach. So I've always struggled with this thought of whether to hire a coach or not to hire a coach, and I've never been able to justify the cost.
Yeah, I would say I didn't have that one-on-one fitness coaches. The ones I've had were in team settings, so it's kind of a shared cost. What I did have that's a little in a smaller team setting, I did Orange Theory, which is more high intensity, and I found that helpful, and I did that about a year ago, because I think those people really push you and challenge yourself where you wouldn't challenge yourself as much. And they can correct your form too, and that's really important because sometimes I thought I'm doing my push-up correctly, but I realized I'm not pushing all the way down. And it's important to have people that correct your techniques.
And I think it's also important to have someone who would hold you accountable.
Exactly.
So I think whether it's in a group setting or you have somebody coaching you one-to-one, regardless, the accountability really counts.
For sure.
Yeah. So what do you think was the biggest struggle that you faced in your weight loss journey?
I didn't know who to go to for help. And I remember trying it on my own. At that time in 2003, Google was still picking up some traction. And I was very frustrated not fitting into my clothes and, looking at different options on how to lose weight. And I not finding that many options, besides studying nutrition. And the other aspect was I didn't have good time management. I didn't make the time to work out as much as I do now.
And did you have apps like MyFitnessPal or Noom and Lose It at that point in time? Or you were just manually noting down all your calories every day?
I was writing it down on a piece of paper.
Oh my
We
God.
didn't
I'm
have
sure
a
that must have
smartphone
been a
back then.
challenge.
Remember that. This is 2003 to 2007 when I was in college. So the
Wow.
smartphone was coming out in 2007, I believe. iPhone.
Yeah,
No
I lose
apps.
track of time.
It's okay.
I know they had a website before the app came later. I was just curious if you were using the website, just pen and paper. Wow, that must have been difficult.
Yeah,
How were you figuring out the calories for each food at that point in time?
I was only looking at the food label, but the things I cooked, I couldn't figure it out. It wasn't that easy to figure it out. So it ended up just being a list of food items, the things on the Yoplait or bag of chips, things like that. I can write them down, but anything that I cook or prepare, I couldn't figure out the calories.
You can figure out. Yeah, it's very difficult. And how do you manage your food cravings now? You had mentioned you're a big fan of Cheetos. How do you manage those cravings?
I still eat them in small portions. That's one of the key for me. I give in and I would redeem myself by eating more fresh produce, fruits and vegetables to redeem myself.
Yeah, I think it's important for people to understand that everybody has these cravings, and weight loss journey is a continuum. It's not black and white. It's not that you've had something that's not good for you and that's the end of your journey. It's a continuum. So even if you do give into your cravings once in a while, you can always make up for it the next day. As long as you don't keep repeating it, I think you should be fine.
Yeah.
What role do you think exercise played in your weight loss journey?
I would say exercise play a very significant role in my life. Initially with the weight loss, but later on it's more maintenance of weight loss. And but exercise now for me, it's more for my wellness than anything. Especially endurance activities, I love them. I usually go on a run before a holiday meal because I know a holiday meal tend to be buffet style. So usually before Thanksgiving and Christmas, lunch or dinner, I usually go for a run so that way I can enjoy my food more.
When it comes to eating well, what are your top 3 recommendations?
My top 3. So I have this little acronym, ATM. So A, For me, activities do help. I have to emphasize, although, we are asking about eating well, but you have to pick an activity that you enjoy, whether it's walking, swimming, running, biking, anything. Because once you do the activities, you enjoy food in different way. Some people would say that makes them eat more and they're very hungry, but you change the way that your muscles store energy and use the energy, so it's very important to have activities in there. T is for talk. I recommend talking to someone. It could be your primary care physician, registered dietitian, fitness instructor, or even obesity specialist. Talk to someone to help you feel less frustrated, so that at least you're not alone, and that you can be confident to really change your weight trajectory, and that you can make a huge change in your life. And then lastly is very important, mindset. Be very curious about different food options, even if they're outside of the food that you grew up with. So I mentioned how I grew up eating, more of the Asian cuisines with the white rice. Well, I don't need to eat white rice for the rest of my life, and I will be okay, because I know there are other grain options. For me, it's the quinoa, barley, whole wheat, couscous, and eating well can be done on a budget. And I've seen people who, are concerned about cost, and it is a very valid concern. But you do have to realize that, what I did when I was a college student, I was broke, but I had to learn to eat well. So you just have to be very creative of, where you go grocery shopping. And, actually the fresh produce, the fruits and vegetables tend to be more affordable and nutritious than the processed foods.
Yeah, I think there are two aspects to eating well. Like you'd mentioned, one is eating more produce. Now, it may not necessarily be fresh, because we do realize that there are certain areas, quote unquote, called food deserts in the US, where you may not necessarily have access to fresh fruits and fresh vegetables. But in those areas, you would still have access to frozen vegetables, which are equally nutritious, if not more, compared to the fresh produce. And oftentimes, the frozen vegetables that you would get are cheaper than the fresh produce. The other aspect is also about exploring different things and how you can incorporate that into your own culture. For example, you had mentioned using quinoa, or even using, say, cauliflower rice. You don't even need to eat white rice or quinoa. I don't prefer the taste of quinoa, honestly. I think it's a little bitter. So I prefer using cauliflower rice, which is really nice because I can substitute the white rice for cauliflower rice, which is
Mhm.
again available fairly easily. You can find it in the frozen section, and it is much more nutritious than your white rice.
Yeah, cauliflower rice is amazing. I remember eating it. Yeah.
So you can really incorporate that, and it has a bland taste, and you can incorporate it into almost any dish that you want to make out of it. So
Hmm.
it's about getting a little creative with what you do and whatever resources you have. I think those are the two aspects to this as well. What do you think?
I completely agree. I used to volunteer at a Native American reservation outside of San Diego, and I remember talking to the Native Americans there that the nearest grocery store 50 miles away, and so for them, fresh produce wasn't an option. So when that's not an option, frozen food can be, a good alternative. Where I'm living, I'm lucky that I have, good access. I have a lot of ethnic grocery stores as well as organic and non-organic grocery stores, whenever I need them. But when I'm on a road trip in a place that, in more of the food desert places that you mentioned, I actually do buy frozen vegetables.
Yeah, and you can buy them in bulk and you can store them in your freezer.
Yeah.
As long as you have
Yeah.
electricity, I think you should be good.
Yeah.
All right. So, do you have any last tips for our listeners, Hang?
I would say, for anyone going on a weight loss journey, I recommend that, try on your own first, see if you can get some results. Just don't feel like you need to make fast results within a week or two. Again, it took me 3 years. So, but just make small little
I was
steps.
going to say it took it 3 years. So, people have to realize that it doesn't necessarily have to be in the next 1 month.
Yes, yeah. I would say make a good effort, maybe in the first few months. give yourself about 3 months, but do put in the effort. I tried back then, but I didn't put in that much effort. But if you're not getting the results, please see a professional sooner rather than later, because it is so important, during this pandemic, but also just like a lifelong thing to prevent from getting chronic conditions. I personally view weight loss journey can be like running a marathon, and I believe anyone can run a marathon and anyone can lose weight, if they put in the effort and, seeing professionals to help them. And I will be at the finish line and, hand out your medal, and then we'll just continue running marathons after marathons to maintain this weight loss.
Yeah, it's so important to understand that sometimes doing it yourself may not really help you that much. And you may need help of professionals just like yourself to help in your weight loss journey, especially with medications or surgeries, etc.
Mhm.
And I believe you're starting an obesity medicine practice, right?
I am.
Do you want to share with us a bit about it?
Sure. I'm planning to start a telemedicine business focusing on weight management. So I've been doing it for 4 years, helping patients with weight management, whether it's starting medication or not. But the ones that I follow for a long time have done very well. And I can tell you some of the results some of my patients have gotten. One patient actually did not go on any medications, but over a period of 1 year with me, he, went from really not walking because of his back surgeries and knee pain to, he started off with swimming and slowly work his way up to walking and then power walking. But he did lose 50 pounds. And the best compliment he got from his wife was he's having a neck definition again. Another patient of mine, 40-ish year female, body mass index of 37 when I saw her with hypertension, but she has like amazing A1C for, the hemoglobin A1C. It was like 4.5. And
Oh,
everyone looks at her
wow.
as like, well, your body mass index of 37. How could you have an A1C of 4.5? And, but it turns out she actually eats very well and she does walk 10,000 steps a day, which is about 5 miles, but she just could not lose this weight. So I started her on medication and she's been doing remarkably well, so much that the bariatric surgeon refused to see her because she,
She fell below the line.
she
She fell
went
below
off the cutoff.
she didn't, yeah, because she didn't qualify for the surgery
She didn't
anymore.
qualify for surgery anymore. She went to like body mass index of 33. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So for me, it's really amazing to, help people. And it's something that I also have another patient who, and this makes me think a lot. He said, every day I wake up and I want to be in a different body. Or no, he said, I wish I was in a different body. And it's very depressing. And he's in an area where there are no obesity specialists to help him. And I was doing a locum job at this location, and I helped him during my time there. But he needed to lose the weight before he could have his knee surgery.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, I find it very gratifying to help people lose the weight, because although people can say that obesity is more something of a look, but actually obesity is the underlying cause for so many different chronic conditions that we see. And that if we can address this from a prevention standpoint, we can really help people.
I agree. And it is a chronic disease, as we know. And I think it needs to be recognized as such as well. So, Hank, do you want to tell us how people can reach you?
Yes, they can reach me either through LinkedIn or Instagram. I am in the process of creating my own website soon. I'll post that on my LinkedIn and Instagram when that is ready.
Great, great.
Yeah.
I think that's all we have time for today. Listeners, if you liked today's episode, please drop us a review or a comment. Tell us what you loved and what you would like to hear in the future. Do subscribe for more fun and inspiring episodes like this one. I am looking for more inspiring stories like this. So if you have one to share, please email me at host@decodingobesity.com. Thank you so much, Hank, for joining us and sharing your Freshman 15 story. And thank you, everyone, for listening in. I'll see you all next time.
Thank you, Avishkar. Thanks for having me here.
You've been listening to the Decoding Obesity podcast. Please remember, the information in this podcast should not be used in any legal capacity whatsoever. The thoughts and opinions expressed on this podcast are solely of the host and his guests and do not constitute medical advice. Views and opinions on this show do not necessarily represent the views and opinions of any organization. And that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you so much for listening in. Don't forget to visit our website, www.decodingobesity.com, for show notes and more info. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please feel free to rate, review, and subscribe on your preferred podcast listening platform. We really appreciate that effort. Until next time.